All right, YouTube, you got Brian with Renegade Trucking here. And now that everything's done, I am doing my final review on Suncoast Trucking Academy and, my thoughts about it and how everything's going. So going into this, well, first of all, let me just start from the start. They were awesome about helping me get the funding, walking me through everything I needed to get my learner's permit, and then also getting me hooked up with getting started right away to meet my super tight deadline. And I'm greatly thankful for that. Also, as I mentioned before, I'm not sponsored by them in any way or anything. So these are all my own opinions, and I'm not compensated in any manner other than the government providing the WIOA grant for me. So, so I get started. Everything's cool during the classroom week. It's, they mention it being a transition week, and classroom instructor's great. And it certainly is a transition week because it's getting you prepared for getting in the truck and everything, how everything's going to be going in class. But yeah, that was all cool. The videos are a little bit boring, but they prepare you well for everything. And as I mentioned in my hazmat endorsement video, which was really cool, like the hazmat portion that you go through is about 90% of what's in the state manual for the hazmat endorsement. So you're hooked up. I would recommend after you do that, that's on the final day of class in the classroom, try and go and get your, endorsement right after that. If you can, start doing your test because it's all fresh in your mind. But yeah, so that part was great. Then we go out on the range. And I will say this is kind of where I started to have things that I would recommend or I would have preferred to have been done differently. And so the first thing is I would prefer that the study guide that you're given is more so worked through with the instructors that are on the range or the state examiners. I guess if you read it exactly as it is in the packet that you will pass, but the way that the instructors have you doing it is there are some discrepancies. And so, I preferred the way that you do it on the range where you're basically doing an actual inspection. Excuse me. And anyways, so that part I would have preferred to have done, like I said, differently if there were more communication between the range and the, the office setting up the packet. That would probably be preferred. But yeah, then the other thing was, and this is kind of just because of my class, with the time that we were doing it, with the holidays, I started off with one instructor, and then after like 2.5 days, we got our permanent instructor, and I understand why that was done. It's just kind of unfortunate because it was like we started all over again. Well, I mean, effectively we did. We started from square one again. So we had some exposure to the truck, but again, we're starting over from square one. So just that kind of, there's nothing wrong at all with our first instructor. It's just everyone has different teaching styles, and just having to start all over again and effectively losing like 2.5 days on a tight time frame already. It was kind of unfortunate. And then on top of that, with the way that my class was, and we had extremely varying skill levels, which doesn't appear to be with any of the other classes that I've seen out on the practice range. It's kind of specifically for my class. So this is just kind of a weird situation, which, you want to be aware of. Some people were taking so long to progress. In fact, even into the final week, we had someone who still couldn't shift and finally quit. That was a lot of time and resources that were put into those students. who ultimately dropped out of our class and really just kind of screwed the two of us who were at an appropriate skill level, really kind of took us out. Now, I have mentioned in other videos, they were taking practice time from us. I have mentioned in other videos, and I mean that because they eventually left, so that's time that could have been devoted to just me or the other student. So that's nothing on the school. And as I mentioned in other videos, I felt like they did do a pretty good job of trying to move some of us forward who weren't, stuck on day one skills. But at the same time, I also saw other classes as I was on the range longer and the newer classes were starting. I saw them progressing quite a bit quicker than our class did. So while some of the stuff we were moved forward on, some other things we were really held back on. I don't know what the school could have done differently there other than, recycling people on a daily or weekly basis if, they're not maintaining, which maybe they do this, but it didn't happen for my class other than through them naturally quitting the class to go either to automatic or quitting the school completely. So I would have preferred to have seen some of those students recycled sooner than they quit on their own. But that's just my own personal opinion. That's just how I feel about it. So I don't know if the school does that. I can tell you that they certainly give every effort possible, every type of instruction, anything that they can do to help the student, but unfortunately not every student takes advantage of that and puts the effort in. And it's tough when that holds back other students, and I would have liked to have seen that probably handled a little bit differently, at least with the way that it ended up going. Like I said, if they could have recycled them earlier rather than waiting for the student to actually quit. I felt like, basically what I'm saying is, I felt like the school put too much effort into polishing a turd, basically. But that, I guess if you fall into that category, that's good for you, that the school will do everything at their disposal to help you out. So for me personally, I don't want to see that, but from most other students' perspectives, that's probably a positive. So that's that. But yeah, they are absolutely amazing at specifically the instructor that I had is fantastic about when you don't understand anything, or even if you don't know that you don't understand something, about either explaining it 1,000,001 different ways until you do get it, until something does click for you, or asking you questions that makes you understand in your own head what you're doing wrong. So fantastic instruction. I have no complaints whatsoever about the instruction or anything. I would have liked to have seen more time on the test range, or if the practice specifically for the alley docking were the identical dimensions, but they're kind of limited on the real estate there. My other complaint, and again, I really don't know what they could do differently, but I would have preferred as a student, especially with extremely limited experience, because keep in mind, I have not once ever driven a commercial vehicle. Prior to this, I have not even backed anything with a trailer in my entire life. So all of this is completely brand new. And, I was able to go through and pass my test on the first shot. So if you listen to what they are instructing you and you don't do anything extra, and you put the effort in, that part's on you. You will pass. And listen to their coaching, because they will, when you're doing something wrong, they will teach you how to stop doing that and do it the proper way. But I would have preferred as a student to have been in the same exact vehicle during my entire training. I know in the real world, you're going to be, especially if you're slip seating, you're going to be in a different vehicle all the time. Okay, but this is specifically for passing your test. This is not the real world. I'll deal with that when I get there. But I would have preferred to have had the same exact vehicle the entire time. Now I know that inventory, I guess, is kind of limited there as far as the trucks that they have. Probably specifically, they have a lot of different trucks, but with the amount of classes and then using trucks for testing, you get shuffled around into different trucks, which, you can say that that's a good thing for learning the differences, how different vehicles react and operate. But the whole point of going to this school is specifically to be trained to pass your state CDL exam. I'll learn everything else when I'm at the employer, and it would have just been much easier using the same exact vehicle that entire time. So that would have been one thing that I would change there. Now, anything else? I really don't have anything else that I would have changed other than, the few things I mentioned here. Overall, would I recommend that someone would, if someone in the area is looking to go to Suncoast Academy, would I recommend that you go there to get your CDL? Absolutely, because I learned so much during my time there. I already thought I had some knowledge about, at least familiarity with driving commercial vehicles. Not that I ever drove, but just growing up around them and all that kind of stuff, being, having friends and family members in the trucking industry, owning a truck company. I thought that I had some knowledge of it and, being around truckers, but there is so much extra going on. What kind of things was I surprised by? I could not believe when I got on the range, and thank God I didn't need to continue in the beginning of the video, or, when I started, I was working every single night, and I would not have been able, thankfully I didn't need to continue doing that, and I was able to tone it down quite a bit, because I would have been completely exhausted. I already was exhausted and fatigued. The mental exhaustion that you go through when you start driving these vehicles on the road for the first time, with all of the stuff that you need to juggle, is insane. My degree is in IT security. I've never done anything as intellectually stimulating as driving a commercial vehicle, as surprising as that may sound to some people. There are so many different things going on. Now, I'm sure, just like, when you start driving a car, it's the same thing. Once you get familiar with it, you're still keeping track of all of these things, but you build up those muscles, those brain muscles on what you're doing, how things are going to react. So I'm not going to say that it ever gets more comfortable or easy, because you're always, going to stay focused on these things, or you should. But you get my point, that it's not as overwhelming, if you will, as you become accustomed to it. And I could tell by the end of, after doing 3 weeks of driving and taking the test, I just driving around town, complete difference, night and day difference in the exhaustion level, and, just driving the truck. I'm a physically fit person, and certainly a lot of this helped by going to this newer truck. That first truck was insane. Going to the hydraulic clutch helped out a lot, and not having to manhandle everything all around. But yeah, it was just physically and mentally exhausting. That was very surprising to me. And but yeah, I would certainly, absolutely, 100% recommend, if you're in the area, to contact them. They will help you out to make sure that you can qualify for any, grants or VA or anything like that. They'll point you in the right direction, and if not, I believe they do financing and stuff like that. But they certainly give you all of the tools and the opportunity to get your CDL. Ultimately, it's up to you, to take advantage of that and to get it knocked out. So, I would certainly recommend them. I felt, I talked to some other people who got their CDL from the local county, and it was insane how lenient they were talking about their testers. being and everything. They were kind of really surprised at how it is at this school, but I think that's a good thing. I would say that, you know, when you get your CDL from here, you've certainly earned it. And, you know, they're definitely putting safe drivers out there on the road, and I think that's a really good thing. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I'm satisfied with everything that happened. Like I said, you know, there were a few things I would have tweaked, but, you know, ultimately we don't live in a perfect world. Even with any of those changes that I would have liked to have seen made, you know, I still wholeheartedly would approve, would recommend this to anyone else. And, you know, if you've seen on any of my other videos, people asking about this, I definitely recommend them. There's no reason whatsoever that I saw that I wouldn't want to have done it again through them. If I were doing this from scratch again, I certainly would have done the same exact thing, although I probably would have not had such a tight timeline if that were under my control. But again, thanks for watching. I hope you found this informative. I hope you enjoyed this entire journey that I took over the last just over a month at Suncoast Trucking Academy. And if you're going through with Suncoast Trucking Academy and that's how you found this video, I wish you all the best of luck. Everyone there is extremely helpful. Everyone wants to see you succeed. They'll give you all the tools necessary, and it's up to you to do it. So take my advice, listen to what they tell you, put the effort in, and you'll be fine too. So thanks again for watching. Stay safe out there. Good luck if you're taking your exam, and you know, I'll catch you on the flip side.